Hello and welcome to today's video where we're going to cover patch 13.4, looking back at it in the most common matchups, trying to develop a meta. Um, Keep in mind to do this for all patches. This is a very basic black and white look at it in a vacuum. Obviously, there are many reasons why a win rate ends up the way it does, ranging from player skill, team skill, itemization, ruinization. I mean, we could go down an infinite amount of variables. That's why I do more than 10 for the sample size to determine a win rate. And even then, at the end of spring, in the playoffs being done, I will have a video that encapsulates the entirety of spring. And then we'll have maybe sample sizes of upwards to nearly 100 matchups to look at. Patch 13.4, LEC finally finished. Despite this, 65% of the games on the patch occurred in the LPL and LCK. So obviously, best of ones, there aren't as many games compared to the LPL and LCK that have best of threes. So 65% of the games were in the East. So this is an Eastern dominated data set. In top lane, there were 33 different top laners chosen. A very wide champion pool, to say the very least. We cannot say that it was a boring top lane meta. I think that is just false. 33 picks. I mean, clearly, that's diverse. Most commonly, we saw K'Sante. Once again, Renekton being picked into K'Sante, Sion being picked into K'Sante. Between the three that were tied at 7 matchups, we had, I think, Jace and Nara into K'Sante. So K'Sante being the main pick, and then whatever you want to pick into it. 17 times, K'Sante barely getting the edge, 53%. So we'd say that's coin flip because the sample size is so small. And then Sion and K'Sante pretty much coin flip as well at 53%. So I'm not going to make an assumption based off of this small sample set when it's only 53%, right? That's not a very large win rate. I would say that it definitely could go either way. But it is nice to see 33 different picks in top lane. I think that people would be shocked to see that and be like, oh, well, maybe the meta in top lane isn't as boring as I thought. Jungle, the opposite. This is probably the worst the jungle meta has ever been in my opinion, since I started doing these when it comes to being stale. 14 junglers chosen. That is it. 20 times we saw Wukong into Vi, 18 Lee Sin into Vi. And then if Vi was banned, we saw Wukong into Lee Sin 14 times. And then if Wukong is banned or someone wants to pick Sejuani, if Sejuani is up, because Sejuani, I think, in my opinion, was the top jungler. It was S tier along with Maokai and Elise. Sejuani's up. People pick Vi into it 14 times. Vi did have the edge on Wukong once again, 65% of the time. We have seen this time and time again throughout the year, and at the end, I think it will show in my spring recap when it comes to the meta that Vi strongly does well into Wukong within these team comps. And then people are going to say it's too small of a sample. Well, by the end of this, I think we're going to have 100 to 150 matchups to look at. And sure, I'm sure some people have played this matchup 100 to 150 times at a high elo level to gauge it. But, you know, we're looking at what the numbers are, so this is what it is. Lee Sin and Vi, 9 to 9. So, could go either way. Lee Sin coming back into the meta this patch. 14 times Lee Sin, 57% win rate. And then Vi over Sejuani, 57%. Not super strong. I'd like to see 60% to really make a inference. Like I said, the sample size isn't super large. So when it's like when Vi is 65%, and I know that the Wukong Vi matchup has been Vi favored for the entirety of the split, I can continue to make the inference that clearly Vi has had the edge over Wukong. But when it comes to these other ones where Lee Sin is just kind of crawling back into the meta now, Sejuani being banned out so often, I'm sure when we look at it, Sejuani and Vi are going to be one of the more common matchups because it's existed the entire split, but we don't have those numbers on this board. Mid lane, 33 mid laners chosen. So once again, cannot say that this patch was stale in mid lane. So we have both solo lane metas being very diverse. More diverse than I think I've ever seen it. Like, this is a very diverse patch. Talia and Azir 9 times, and then we saw Annie Gragas 5 times, Gragas into Azir 5 times, and then Akali Syndra a handful of times as well. Nothing else more than 5 times. I mean, 5 times or more. So, a lot of pick whatever you want in mid lane. We'll see what works. And that's kind of the deal there. I mean, there's not really to go over in specifics. I mean, Azir and Gragas were the number one picks. A lot of people like Gragas because they're able to flex it. You know, they're able to put it into top if they want, or the jungle. So that's why that exists. Annie, a strong pick that can be picked into support, so people like to be able to flex that. Syndra creeping in because it's just a stock standard pick, and Azir continuing to just kind of do its thing, and be a high level mid laner. Bot lane, 21 bot laners. Despite what you would read from pundits and commentators and Twitter, Zeri Lulu Lucian Nami is no longer the most commonly played matchup. Xayah on 13-4 was the chief champion. Now, obviously, Zeri probably being banned, we have to take that into account, but when it comes to what's being picked and what you're watching for 45 minutes or however long the game takes, Zeri into Xayah occurred 21 times. Aphelios into Xayah occurred 20 times. So Xayah was the pick, and it was whatever you want to pick into it. Or if Zeri's banned, we pick Xayah, and then you pick Aphelios into it. 18 times Aphelios into Zeri, 17 times old Lucian versus Zeri. So once again, Zeri and Lucian is not the most common matchup. It's up there, but it's not the most common, not to the point where we can say, oh, wow, it's dominating the meta still. It's simply not the case on 13-4. 13-5's video will come out after playoffs are done, I guess, for the LCS and LCK, depending on what the LPL does. We don't know if the LPL is going to go on 13-6 or not. LEC, I assume, is going to go on 13-6. In terms of win rates, Xayah actually dominates Zeri. Xayah, 67%, 2/3. I would say it's pretty good. I would say that Xayah clearly has an edge over Zeri on 13-4. Now, I'm seeing on 13-5 already that start to flip a bit. Now, with that in mind, we look at the split maybe to try and determine why things are the way they are. We don't have any LEC games on there, not many LCS games, so it's pretty much being dominated by the East, so maybe that's factoring into it even more. It's a heavier favored Eastern patch. I don't know, but I just know that on 13-4, Xayah got the better of Zeri by quite a bit. 20 Aphelios Xayah games, Aphelios falling short. Xayah 55%. Obviously, that is an 11-9 split, so I wouldn't say that is a super telling matchup. That's probably coin flip. Aphelios Zeri 56%, Lucian Zeri 53%, so Zeri getting the better of Aphelios and Lucian by a little bit. I'm sure by the end of the year, the end of the split, when I do that video I keep mentioning, I'm sure Zeri Lucian will be at the top and Zeri Aphelios will be up there, etc. But in terms of what's happening right now, this is the deal. Support, 26 different supports. The cat keeps bumping into my shit. I have to make sure everything's still on. Nami Lulu, 15 times. The only matchup that occurred more than 10 times. After that, we see Thresh Rakan 9 times. Thresh Lulu. And then Renata Rakan. So Renata, Rakan, Lulu, Renata, Rakan, and Thresh all kind of join into the meta in a bigger way in 13-4. Nami Lulu still being the most common, and Lulu winning 53% of the time. Nami 53% of the time, still coin flip regardless. And that matchup, I'm sure, will be on the end video. But it's nice to see Thresh, Lulu, Renata Rakan, Thresh Rakan. 13-5, we're already seeing that those matchups are also highly contested, so I expect that Nami Lulu is going to kind of fall off the wagon here, because Lucian Nami has fallen out of meta on 13-5. So with that in mind, that's kind of the deal here. So I feel like, despite what a lot of people want to say about the meta being stale and this and that, 13-4 actually was pretty diverse, especially in the solo lanes. Jungle role obviously being dead in terms of diversity. A lot of people focusing on AD carry, but it's the jungle role that should be being focused on. So that's it for this video. If you liked it, like it, subscribe to the channel for daily League of Legends content. Follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, become a YouTube supporter, and thank you for watching.